What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Cooper Stuff. We have something very different for Cooper Stuff, and I wanted to do this last week, but I couldn't because we had, the whole modest is hottest thing came up, and it was something we had to talk about. So I had to push this. But this is very different. I don't spend a lot of time on Cooper Stuff talking strictly about politics. As you know, I don't talk a ton about America, even though I am conservative, and even though I am patriotic and I really love the country. I'm doing this for a few reasons. Number one, have you noticed in the last few years that just like I've been talking about recently, you find yourself stepping in to stuff you had no idea was going to start a fire. Maybe you tweet, Happy July 4th. And the next thing you know, you've lost friends over it and you didn't even know that was controversial. And people are accusing you of being in the patriarchy or whatever it is. And you didn't even know it was like a thing. Okay. That's kind of led me to wanting to talk about this. Number two, as you know, the mob is coming after everybody. And the thing the mob wants you to do, they want you just to shut up. Just shut up and stop talking. That's what they want. And if they can get you to stop talking and not choose a side, then they win. That's the idea. And I hate bullies. So I want to talk about this because of that. The third reason is because of this. I think that there's this middle ground in Christianity. You could call it woke Christianity. You could call it the semi-woke. I'm going to call it the Christian libs, okay? The Christian libs that are basically giving cover for this leftist revolution because they always want to be in the middle of this thing. And I don't think they quite understand what it's going to mean if the leftists actually get the revolution that they want. I don't think they understand what it's going to mean for the gospel of Christ, for the freedom we have to express our religion the way we want, for individual freedom. Here's my question for them. If America isn't awesome, then where is? That's my question. We're going to jump into it on Cooper Stuff. Cooper Stuff! Thanks for joining me with Cooper Stuff. I got a sweet special guest today because I needed somebody to come on and talk about this subject with me that knows what they're doing. My good friend, Graham Allen, is going to come on. And if you don't know Graham, I'm going to let him say who he is because Graham is sort of a political thinker, a pundit in a little bit of a way. He's written a book. I have it right here. And it's a great book. And I don't want to brag, but it is signed to me personally. I'm kind of a big deal. Graham also has a podcast, and he's also the only person I've ever known who is running for Congress. So say hello to Graham Allen. What's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me, John. I'm glad to be here. That intro was pretty good. There's not a whole lot of really special things about me. I'm just a redneck guy who figured out a way to make a living running his mouth. And so you sing for a living and create amazing music. I run my mouth for a living, and people either love me for it or they hate me for it. And we are running for Congress here in the 7th District of South Carolina because, like you said in your intro, we believe that there is a monumental since this is a Christian-based platform, I believe that there is a spiritual battle under the veil of politics that is being fought. And if we don't have people that are willing to go take the arrows, as I like to call it, because so many times you hear people, and I'll get off the Congress run here in a minute, but so many times we hear people say, we need different people, or we need new people. We need, non-politicians to run. But everybody goes, oh, but not me. Oh, no, I can't put my family through that, or blah, 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 blah. It was the same thing when I was recruiting for the military. Everybody loves the military and everybody supports the military and everything, but don't come after my baby, Mr. Recruiter. Oh no, my baby's not going into the military. And it's the same thing. So we are in the battle, we are in the fight of it, and it is as horrific and bloody and just so dark as you could imagine it to be. And we need warriors, not just on the political front, but from the Christian perspective as well, to take up that mantle, man. We really do. And so we're doing it. We'll see what happens. Maybe I win this thing, maybe I don't. But God said go, so we're doing it, and we're going to see what happens.
Absolutely. I want to talk more about the Congress run. I think maybe I'm going to push that towards the end, because then we can plug where
Absolutely.
where people can go and donate if they want to. And I do think it's important.
Yep.
But you just said something that I really love. I don't remember how you said it, but you said basically did you say it's a religious battle under the guise of politics?
Yes, it's a spiritual
Spiritual, yes.
warfare under the guise of or under the veil of politics. Yes,
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 I
we are
100%
in a
agree.
spiritual battle for America right now. So whether you identify with left leaning policies or you identify with right leaning policies, it doesn't matter. If you claim to be a Christian, you can't ignore the fact that we are in a spiritual warfare with our country. I would argue that if you truly believe the Bible to be true, it's awfully hard to be left leaning in your political, beliefs. But that's something that we can get into here as well. But without a doubt, we are in a spiritual warfare, and me and you have had a lot of conversations offline, and I'll bring, I won't say what you said, but I'll say what I said about it. I love people. How many people have you talked to, especially Christians, right? Oh, I hate politics. I don't talk about politics. I don't associate with politics. Well, then you don't pay attention to life and the real world, is what you're saying. You live with your head in the sand or live literally under a rock, because politics is life. It is literally everything that you see and do in America. For listeners you may have in another country or whatnot, your government style or whatever, politics is everywhere. And if you truly don't educate yourself, it's the same thing as saying you believe the Bible to be true, but you absolutely have never read it and have no idea what's in there. You can't ignore politics because it dictates your life here in America. And if we as Christians don't immerse ourselves in it, so we know what we're talking about, and we know the attacks that are going against not only our rights as Americans, but our rights but our freedoms as Christians, then I would argue that you're not being a very good Christian in that regard. And so I'm excited to have these conversations with you here on your show.
Yeah, I think that what some people get really and maybe I'm going to rewind and ask a couple of personal things so people even
Go
know how
for it.
we know each other. But I do
Yeah.
want to mention this now in case somebody's wondering. I do think of what can happen is that people get nervous about this conflation between like the gospel of the kingdom of God and the gospel of America, if you will, as if the kingdom of God and America are the same thing. And I think that could be, I think that's a very simple definition of Christian nationalism, right? And that is something that
Yeah.
we absolutely do not believe in. To me, that's blasphemous. To me, that's idolatry. And I know that you agree with that. What I think that a lot of
Yep.
times, what I call the Christian libs, what I think the Christian libs don't understand is that when we say we love America, we don't see the role of the state the same way that the left sees the role of the state. So in their minds,
Absolutely.
what you're saying is I love the state and I give my allegiance to the state, but we don't see that that's not their role, because to us, America is we the people. America means
Yes.
that this is, I have a voice in what this is. And when I say I love America, it's because America protects my
Hmm.
individual rights rather than supplying me with individual rights. And I think that the Christian libs, that's why every time somebody like you comes on and says, I'm a Christian and I think that America's great, the reason they conflate that with Christian nationalism is they don't understand our philosophy of what America
Yeah.
actually is. So I don't want anybody to think that we are conflating the kingdom with America. We're not doing that, and you're not
Yeah.
doing that, right?
No, absolutely. So I am a Christian first. Plain and simple. I am a Christian above all things. And if at any point America turns away from a foundational principle against Christianity, yes, I mean, as a Christian, that is my first priority, and I will take a problem with America in that regard. I love America because I truly believe, and we just had a very long conversation about this on my show. It was, because we just had July 4th, and there's this new thing now because you've had Juneteenth become a federal holiday, of which I don't really have any issues with that. Like, Juneteenth is the day where the Union soldiers made it into Galveston, Texas, because back then there wasn't Facebook and Twitter and TV, and there were slaves that had no idea that the Emancipation Proclamation had occurred. So Juneteenth is in reference to that day. Hey, I got no problem with that. Sure, why not? Another federal holiday, another day off. Why not? I think that's great. What I have a problem with as an American is I have a problem with this new trend that is coming on now, that because there is now Juneteenth, and that Juneteenth is now a federal holiday, that now we should have almost two Independence Days, and that July 4th, 1776 is not really our Independence Day because it wasn't independence for everyone. So I'll tell you what I think, and then I'd love to get your reaction on this. I believe that there are dates in history that are fundamentally world-changing events, in my opinion, because I am an American and I do love America. Other than the birth of Jesus and the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, I believe that July 4th, 1776 is right up there in top 5, if not top 3. And here's why. We are such a young country, and as Americans, we are so adamantly arrogant, like it's part of the American culture, right? Like that's who we are. We're like, no, we're Americans, we're better than you, like that's just inherently American. But we forget about the history of the world and context, and Christians forget about context a lot too. We've had this discussion. If you don't understand the context of the Bible, it's really hard to understand the vastness of what the scriptures represent in the Bible. So July 4th, 1776 isn't even when we won the Revolutionary War. It was years later that we actually won. And what's so substantial about July 4th, 1776 is that the founding fathers, through divine intervention, and you're never going to convince me otherwise, that God's hand was not involved in the forming of America. And here's why. Slavery, and this is their big thing, is because when we initially declared independence, we didn't get rid of slavery, right? That's the big thing for Juneteenth and this and that. No one is arguing how horrible slavery is, how abhorrent it is. Nobody's arguing that. But slavery has been a part of human history since the beginning of time. Literally, of all human history where humans have had any involvement, there has been slavery, there has been, and it's still to this day in other countries. So the founding fathers were the first people to sit there and go, before they even declared independence that started the Revolutionary War, they had already altered the course of human history. They had already written the Declaration of Independence. They had already written our first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, because they sat back and they said, you know what? The government doesn't give us our rights and our freedoms. Our rights and our freedoms come from a higher power, a creator. So therefore, they are inalienable rights. They cannot be taken away. And the government does not have the ability to give or take away those rights and those freedoms. People lose the vastness of this. This is the first time until this point that this had ever occurred in human history. Never has this ever happened, ever. These people were changing something and going a path that had literally never been done before, ever. And
Absolutely.
it took, and everybody's like, oh, it took forever. No, it took about 80 to 90 years. 80 to 90 years after America was America, we had the Civil War, okay? And it cost hundreds of thousands of lives, bloodshed, everything before we realized that, you know what? America wasn't perfect. So we had something that we had to fix, all right? And I tell everybody that if it wasn't for July 4th, 1776, there would be no Juneteenth. There would be no end of slavery. If it wasn't for the First Amendment, there would be no end of slavery, because there wouldn't have ever been able to be allowed to have conversations, to have civil discourse of discussion. We are not a perfect country, but we are a great country. And it is through divine intervention, because these men were looking into a void that had never been created before. And it wasn't, you really believe that these people thought of that on their own? No, that's why America is a country that was formed on Judeo-Christian values. Did they get it perfectly right through the first iteration of when they declared independence and the Bill of Rights and stuff? No, that's why they even gave it the ability to add freedoms and privileges to our rights as Americans. Without July 4th, 1776, there would be nothing else. And people forget that these men and women, there were women involved in these conversations too. They never get any credit, but they were. They were literally changing human history, not American history that's only 250 something years old. No, human history. They were changing all of it. And it really is one of those moments in time that when you look at it in that scale, you sit back and go, wow, that God had a hand in that 100%, because there's no way no mortal men came up with an idea like that just on their own, just on a whim.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I think you laid that out great. And I would add a few things to it, which is, it seems to me part of, excuse me, still getting over this cough, man.
It's we all are.
It's
I've
crazy,
been
isn't
it? For 6 months at this point. Yeah.
I think it's a part of this whole the fad of deconstruction thought, deconstructionism, and you can go into stuff and you can pick and choose things you don't like from history, or things that people did, or things people said, without understanding the scope of it. And I think you laid that out good, because I would add a few things that people have to remember. People in America, we say that there are people here that are oppressed in this country, that they are abused, or whatever you want to say. But I think that they're escaping the broad picture of the tyranny of governments, as you said, before
Absolutely.
1776, the sort of tyranny that governments had over people. And part of that deconstruction is not understanding what those men came out of, and also how brilliant they were, because now it's in vogue to not like the founding fathers and to not understand how brilliant they were. They were students of philosophy, of the Enlightenment thinkers and Aristotle, and I mean, these were people who studied and understood philosophy in a way that people like me and you never will be able to understand. And people,
up until that point,
absolutely.
They would look at what we have today and think it's witchcraft. Like they would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to look back 250 some odd years later and go, well, I would have done it a different way if they just would have done it like this and that. What would you have done in 1776 when the entire world and the history of human civilization had been constructed around this? There is a higher class that has ruling over the rest of everybody else. That is how everything, you look at Egypt, you look at Greece, you look at everything, every major civilization up to that point that had fallen, by the way, they all fell. They all didn't make it. It was all based around one concept, that there was a ruling class and that there was a ruled class or a conquered class. The founding fathers, people say through their infinite wisdom, I would say through divine intervention, went and said, you know what, we need to rewrite this entire thing. We need to rewrite this entire thing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies right now is the Founder. Have you seen that movie yet?
No, I haven't.
About McDonald's. It's got Michael Keaton in it, and he plays Ray Kroc, and it talks about how he ended up stealing the idea of McDonald's from these two brothers. But there's this scene in there where they're explaining how they came up with the concept of, instead of a burger in 30 minutes, you get a burger in 30 seconds, like fast food. Like they invented fast food. And there's this scene where they're at this tennis court and they draw out with chalk, they draw out a kitchen. And, they try it out. They're like, all right, all the employees come in here. We're going to makeshift ordering and stuff like this. And they, and I like to say that's the first Declaration of Independence. That's the first iteration of it, right? And then halfway through, they go, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, this is good, but I think it can be a little better. And so they wipe it all away, and then they reconstruct it again around the same principles, and then they add to it. And then eventually, around the third iteration of this, they come up with the system that ends up being the system that McDonald's uses that revolutionizes all of fast food, right? So one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I look at America very similar to that. The founding fathers, they didn't get it perfectly right when they wrote the initials, right?
Sure.
And but they laid the foundational work down that allowed the ability for us to continue to make it even more perfect and even more perfect and even more perfect. Here's the biggest news flash. And as Christians, we've all read the last page of Revelations, right? Like we know how it all ends. America's never going to get it perfect. Like that's the truth. Is because there's only one perfect person, and it ain't none of us. And so America's never going to get it 100% right. But that doesn't mean that America isn't great, and that doesn't mean that America isn't the greatest country in the world. And again, we can move on from this, but I think that context is so important because we romanticize the Revolutionary War and July 4th. We teach our children. Well, we used to teach our kids. One day, the American colonists all decided in unison that it was time to break away, and everybody cheered and had all this. No, that there were roughly 2.7 million people in all 13 colonies. So think about that for a second. In South Carolina alone, there are over 5 million people here in South Carolina alone. So through all the 13 original colonies, there was only 2.7 million people. So you might have one state that only had 200,000 people in the whole state. You want to talk about people not even knowing what's going on. I guarantee you that we declared independence and there were people that didn't find out for months later. They had no clue. They didn't even know we were talking about it. And so it really was like maybe 20% of people, of 2.7 million people, that changed and altered the entire course of human history. The forming of America changed human history. And I don't care who you are or what color you are. I don't care. If you bleed red, white, and blue, we're all the same to me. But to look at that and say that the founding fathers were bad, we didn't have it 100% right the day that we announced independence. So therefore, Independence Day should be canceled. Nobody should celebrate it because the founding fathers were racist, sexist, whatever. Those people have no idea what they're talking about, and they don't realize that if it wasn't for those men, they would not even have the ability today to say those things.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You wouldn't be able to say that against the king. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, correct. Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's funny that some people would call this a conspiracy theory, and I think that there are less and less of those people that will, what I'm about to say, that would say it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's becoming very clear that what all this really is about in the end is obviously, I know you agree, a revolution, not just against America, but a revolution against the West, against Western values and things like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
people would say, oh, you're making this into a whatever. I just saw my news feed this morning. Let me read the article. I saw this on Daily Wire. Where's my which is, you know, the Ben Shapiro's thing. Where is it?
Correct.
Oh, I don't see it now. Of course, I had it. Oh, there it is. BLM chapter in Utah declares the U.S. flag a hate symbol. Those who fly it are unsafe to be around. So you read this stuff. What this really is about is this revolution against the West. Now, here's what I've been thinking a lot about, and I want to kind of just throw it out there for you.
Okay. All
I've
right.
been
Hit me with it.
all right. I've been talking a lot about the myth of neutrality. All right. It's the idea that there is no neutral ground. Now, I understand the Christian who 10 years ago, like myself, is like, hey, I don't want to really get involved in politics. Like, I know what I believe, but I don't want to get involved in, you know, tax codes and this and this and this. But we've moved on past that. We are beyond this. Like, we could disagree about school choice versus, you know, some other school program and yada, yada. We've moved on past that. And the myth of neutrality here has made it to where if you don't take a stand, God knows what's going to happen. And I just want to throw this out to people that say, July, you know, the American flag is evil and it's this and it's oppressive and blah, blah, blah. Look up at Canada. I just heard on the news last night, I haven't heard this, that in Canada, do you know that there's like a spat of churches being burned in Canada? Have you seen this?
Yeah. And preachers are being arrested for having church. Yes.
Preachers being arrested by the government for having church. One was arrested for having an outdoor church meeting because of COVID.
Absolutely.
Outdoor church meeting. That's happening up in Canada. And of course, they have all sorts of speech codes and things that they don't have freedom of speech the way we have freedom of speech. You go down south, people are, you know, pouring over our border, fleeing tyranny, fleeing corruption. I mean, government corruption that we have government corruption, but not like they do in the South, right?
Freeing slavery as well, drug muling, cartels, all the stuff. Yes, exactly.
Yes, modern forms of slavery. Absolutely. You go look at New Zealand. New Zealand has bragged about their COVID numbers. And how do they get those COVID numbers? They go door to door and drag you out of your house to put you in a camp if you have COVID and don't let you leave until you've tested, you know, till you've tested negative. Put you in a camp. Go up to China. Over 1 million Muslims enslaved. They imprison Christians. They imprison Jews. They're sterilizing the Uyghur Muslim. It's so unbelievably brutal. You go to the UK, they have speech codes that are absolutely, in Scotland especially, going to hurt the gospel in such a way because the gospel is not inclusive language, as we know, right? And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He's not a way, he's the way.
Correct.
So what I want to say to those Christians in the middle, it's the woke, it's the semi-woke, the Christian libs, whatever, I think they're giving cover for a revolution either that they do not understand or that they do it just because they want to get woke cookies. You know, they want to be popular. I don't know. What is your opinion on that, man?
Well, first of all, and you know, this is, you call it, what'd you call it? The neutral, what did you say?
Myth of neutrality.
Okay, myth of neutrality. I like to call it the utopian lie, and it's basically the same thing. First of all, as Christians, and this goes to all pastors, missionaries, evangelists. And even just the pew sitter, you know, just the person that sits in the pew. We have to take responsibility for the fact as Christians, just like you said, 10 years ago, you know, who knows, me and you may have never even had conversations because you may have been to the point like, look, man, you know, I got nothing to do with this. And then I was very much the same way. I was still in the Army at the time. We have to take responsibility for the fact as Christians that we are where we are today because of us, because of our because of our inability and unwillingness to act. That is the very first step that we have to take. Yes. We have to take responsibility that we are here because we did remain silent, and we did just, Christian conservatives, man, just keep your head down, just go to work, go to church, mind your own business, all this other kind of stuff, right? We have to take responsibility that as a church, we failed miserably.
Yeah.
And now you're slowly starting to see certain pastors, and unfortunately, they're very few, but there are certain pastors that are starting to realize that, oh man, the wheel is rolling down the hill. Now we have to literally stop the wheel from rolling and then start pushing it back up. And so it's not going to be easy. But also there's this thing that I like to call the utopian lie. And I approach it from more of a political standpoint. The reason that I do not agree with 99.8% of Democrat policies is because 99.8% of them, and I'm talking about the good ones, all right? And I realize that there are good and bad ones on both sides. Do I believe that every single person that is a Democrat or a Democrat in politics is sent by the devil and they're demon possessed and all this other kind of stuff? No. Do I believe that every single person on the right has good intentions? No, absolutely not. There's bad everywhere across the board.
Absolutely.
But those people on the left that do have good intentions, they're based on a utopian lie that as Christians we know is not actually possible, that people are inherently good, which we know as Christians that it's actually the exact opposite. People are inherently selfish, they're inherently bad, and that's why we need Jesus to help us not be the worst versions of ourselves, because we are inherently not good. We're inherently people that need saving and salvation and grace. Gun control is another thing. The reason that Democrats believe that taking guns away or making guns less accessible will lead to a good outcome is they believe that a utopian world is possible. That if you just remove guns, that people are just going to stop trying to hurt each other all of a sudden. That people are just going to, that's ridiculous. That is never going to happen ever in the history of humanity. To put everybody on the same playing field where capitalism no longer matters, that everybody is equal across the board and they all get the same salary, they all get the same house, the same internet, the same this. Well, someone still has to be in charge of that. So therefore, there is never really an equal anything. The utopian lie is this, and this is how it's so easily disproven. Kamala Harris actually said this. She did an ad talking about, assuming that we're all equal is assuming that we're all starting from the same place, which on the surface is a very catchy, it's a very buzzword argument. And people are like, oh, that is true. Some people come from a broken home, some people come from a rich home, blah, blah, blah. But there is one thing in life that is very true. You can take let's do the Olympics are coming up and they're in hot water topics all the time right now. So let's take the Olympics, for example. You got three track runners, and you take all of them. They're all the same height. They're all the same weight. They're all the same ethnicity. You feed them the same food every day. They all work out the same times. They all get the same conditioning, rest, physical therapy, everything. Literally everything across the board is equal. But when they line up on race day and that gun goes off to take off running, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to pull off in front.
Yep.
Somebody's going to trip and fall and this and that. It is not possible because that is not reality. The reality is that there are always going to be people that are going to become more successful no matter what their circumstances are. There are always going to be people who are going to fail. There are always going to be people that hate other people because they're more successful than they are while they sit on the couch eating Cheetos, looking at the TV, wondering why they're not successful. The utopian lie is convincing Americans that everybody loves everybody, and we just got to get to that point. No, we don't. that is not true. Now, as Christians, we are called to love love our neighbor as ourselves and love our enemies and all of this. But that also is not an inherent human characteristic either. That is a godly characteristic that we try our best and fail miserably every day to try to take on. It is fundamentally a breakdown, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It is a lie, and a lot of times conspiracy theories are complete contradictions of lies. And that's why you're seeing a lot of conspiracy theories now that are being proven right. You see it with all the
Yep.
COVID-19 things. You see it with all the big tech censorship things, and everybody's like, oh, these are big conspiracy theories, blah, blah, blah. There are conspiracy theories out there, but a lot of times people that are deemed conspiracy theorists are people that simply question something that oftentimes is a lie. And the easy way to discredit them is to call them a conspiracy theorist, which is now turned into, oh, just call them a racist. So if you question somebody or you question a rhetoric, you label them as this. And if you label them as this, then it discredits what they're trying to say.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, think about all of the conspiracy theories. If you're listening, that's air quotes, conspiracy theories that in the last 2 months have all been proven factually accurate. We had I mean, it's actually more like a year ago. It just went away, but like the whole Trump dossier thing, it was more like a year ago, but it just went away and everybody got quiet about it. And now we know, this entire thing is made up. The whole thing's shady from the beginning, and that's been proven. You've got the COVID lab, the lab leak theory that was
if
deemed.
You even said, if you even said the words Chinese virus, it came from China, Wuhan lab, you were kicked off social media, you were censored, you were done. But now, like you said, now the emails prove that Dr. Fauci and all of them were suspecting of it from the very beginning. So there are emails from Mark Zuckerberg to Anthony Fauci, basically saying, what can we do to help, keep this down and keep your message up and blah, 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 blah. And yes, absolutely. It is all, you can go down the rabbit hole all day, but we'll try to keep this to more your style of things. Basically, yes, we are in a spiritual battle for our country, and it's based under the lie of politics, and there's two sides. There really are, John. There's two sides. 30 years ago, the difference between Democrats and Republicans, politically at least, really wasn't that different. Okay. Right. JFK today would be a Republican, but either way, they had arguments on whether or not they should have a tax increase between 20%. The Democrats wanted, and the Republicans wanted, 15%. There was room to compromise there, and you could have civil political discourse and all that other kind of stuff. Nowadays, it's not that way. There literally is two sides. And again, we as Christians have to take responsibility for our role that we played in that, for being complacent. You're either on the side of America is the greatest country in the world. Not perfect, but it's the greatest country in the world. You have the greatest opportunity to succeed here. You have the greatest opportunity to be who you want, how you want, even outside of biblical teaching, right? Like as an American, there are freedoms you have that are even outside of biblical freedoms, right? Like there are things that the Bible says absolutely not to, that you have the freedom as an American to do. Go celebrate Pride Month in China and see how that works out, and things like that. But either way, you have that side that says that America is the greatest country in the world and we need to protect that. And then you've got the other side that believes that the founding fathers were flawed men, which they were, because they were men. So therefore, everything that they created and everything that they wrote is wrong and flawed, and we need to redo everything. Everything needs to be redone now through the lens of this utopian lie and this woke cancel culture lie. And that now that we have these better understandings of, infinite genders and the hierarchy that is the it is racism in and of itself, of critical race theory, that that no matter what, if you're successful as a black person, it's because you caved to the white person, or you're not successful because white people didn't allow you to be so. If you break critical race theory down, it is the exact opposite of what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for. It is teaching our children to automatically judge people by the color of their skin. Immediately, like immediately. If a black person sees a white person as a child, it's teaching them to go, they are my enemy. They are not my friend. They're against me. And instead of the exact opposite. Those are the two sides. And it really is that drastic and that different.
I agree.
And we as Christians, especially in the church, man, all of these things where, I attended a church service, and I won't say the church, but it was a large church, mega church. It has like 20 satellite campuses, but I was at the main church, and they had a guest pastor on, African-American pastor, which means nothing to me, but they start talking about the January 6th Capitol riots, and how as an African-American man, they could not believe that the country had gotten to this point where, that was going on. But then you can preach that from the pulpit, but then you completely negate the almost year of riots and deaths and destructions of homes and properties and businesses that were the BLM George Floyd riots. So if we're going to point out one wrong, but you're going to completely and utterly bypass another one because of a woke ideological reason, that's not Christian. That's not pastoral. That's not coming from a place of true Christian perspective. That's teaching woke ideology from the pulpit, from a place of authority with people that believe in the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And that is the worst thing that I can imagine. And it's all the mega churches that are doing it. Well, not all. That's a bad term. You shouldn't say that. It's the vast majority of mega churches that have the most influence that are doing it.
Yeah.
And we have a responsibility as Christians to call this out and be like, look, I don't agree with what happened on January 6th either. But if you're going to call that out and then deem that white supremacy is the greatest, threat to America, but then you're going to completely and utterly avoid all of these other things. So you think as a Christian, it's okay what happened after George Floyd, all the riots, all the destruction. You think that's all right because the narrative was different? I mean, it's either wrong to raid and destroy a building and kill people, or it's not. And it doesn't matter what color you are, nothing. It's either wrong to do those things or it's not. And we can't nitpick what we address as Christians. And that's why, dude, I'm so proud of you. I mean, I really am. Like every time you address it from a true, much better than I ever could, but from a true biblical and scripture perspective, how you're not attacking, but you're confronting these things that are going on. Man, I'm so proud of you because we need more people to do that. Aaron Lewis just released a song, and you can agree with Aaron Lewis or how he does things or whatnot, but just someone of his status in the music industry would release a song addressing what we all see.
Yes.
Right? What we all see and what we all hear. Now, he did it his way, and it definitely had some F-bombs in there and stuff like that. But my point is, but it's the number one song in the country right now on iTunes. In the world.
I actually thought about you when I heard the song. I literally thought about you because I was thinking up to this point, like I've gotten a little beat up in the realm of what I do. And I felt, and when I say that, I mean in the entertainment industry, there's not many people being willing to say, America's good. to saying that America doesn't have the right to shut me in my house, to lock me up.
Yep.
Cancel culture is bad. Freedom of
Yep.
speech. They shouldn't have censored. They shouldn't have yanked Trump down from whatever that's dangerous and it scares it from Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. And I've taken a lot of heat from it. And I've said a few times, where are the punk rockers? Like, where are the rock and roller, the revolutionaries that will say to the government, you do not have a right? And I'm like, I'm the Christian guy. Where's all? And finally, Aaron Lewis comes out with a song, and people don't know who Aaron Lewis is. He's the singer for Stained, who, of course, is a massive metal band. He came out with a song, and I thought about you when I heard it because, you know, you said to me in a private conversation, I don't think you mind me saying, a few months back.
Go for it.
Probably 6 months ago, you said, John, the first band that says, I don't remember how you said it, forget these lockdowns, forget this social distancing. The first band that says, screw that, we're going on tour, that band is going to win because people have had enough of all this kind of stuff. And when I heard that Aaron Lewis song, I thought about you, and I thought, I bet Graham loves that song because it's, you know, it's kind of a similar message.
Yes, and it's the number one song in the world. Like, it beat Taylor Swift, it beat everything, because the truth is, everybody sees it, and like it's weird. I described it like the Matrix, right? Like, it's like everybody knows that something is wrong here. Like everyone listening to this, to this show, to my show, everyone that watches TV, everybody knows that something is wrong. They feel it, they see it, they sense it. Like, everyone knows that something is wrong. But through fear of losing their jobs, through fear of repercussions, through fear of whatever it is, nobody is willing to say it. Where are the Creedence Clearwater revivals out there that are literally like anti-war, like telling the government that they're pieces of garbage? Like where are these people? That, you know, I mean, John Fogerty would not be John Fogerty if he had not taken on the government through his music. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying I agree with what he said, but what I'm saying is he would not be who he is today. And the folklore status that are these bands that formulated during that time frame would not be who they are today if they would not have stood up for what they actually believed and what they actually saw and what they actually felt and what they actually heard. And we need those people. And I'll protect them like I swore that I would, but we've had private conversations, again, people in Hollywood, people in the TV entertainment things, major megastars that people see every day on TV contact me all the time. And they say, hey man, you know, we're with you. That they donated to my campaign. And again, I won't put anybody out there that's not ready yet, but they say, you know, we see it, we feel the same way you do, but if we were to ever say anything, we would never work again, and we just can't do that. And I believe it was like our first meeting with each other that I told you that it's gonna take people that are in positions like yours, that are in positions like Aaron Lewis, that are in positions in the music and or not the music, but the entertainment industry and the movie industry. It's going to take all of us to stand up, because what has happened every time someone has stood up, their label may have fired them, right? Like, okay, all right, you're fired from the band. All right, Tommy Vext is a good example. Again, I don't agree with everything Tommy Vext says, everything Tommy Vext does, but Tommy Vext came out and said, you know what, I'm a conservative and I'm voting for Donald Trump. He was fired from his band like the next day, literally dropped from his label the next day. So then he's like, okay, fine, I'm just going to do it myself. And he has sold out every single show. He has a tour. They have literally taken Bad Wolves off the schedule and put Tommy Vext in its place because he had the
guts. Let's say guts.
Yeah, the guts. He had the guts to just say something and to just do something. Every time someone has done it, the people in this country that see it and they feel it, they have come up behind them and they have lifted them up.
You're right.
And they have said, you know, thank you for finally somebody said,
Yes.
because we all see it. People are longing for that. This congressional run, people come up to me every day, and you know, I'm just a opinionist. That's who I am. I'm a nobody from a southern state. I was in the Army for 12 years, and somehow I created, by accident, well, not by accident, it was obviously the Lord that did it. Somehow I created this media thing where we talk about politics, but they come up to me every day and they're like, we have been with you since day one. Like when you were making videos in your beat up truck and you had no money, you had no nothing. We've been with you from the very beginning. People need to believe and they need to know that it is possible for somebody that grew up in rural Mississippi, that came from nothing, came from a broken home, came from all of this stuff, created their own businesses on their own, got no help from nobody, destroyed their credit to build the businesses till the businesses were finally profitable enough to where he could restore his own credit. And then finally running for people need to see that it is still possible for a normal person that comes from nothing, that they can work their way all the way to then fight for the very people that are in the exact spot that they were in.
Yeah.
They need to see those things, John. People need it. Like they need to know. And that's why I love the lyrics of Aaron's song. You know, am I the only person? Like, am I the only person that sees this? Because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because nobody else is saying, you know, I mean, our president doesn't even know that he's the president. Like he's fumbling through words and he's saying things that aren't true. And you know, we're realizing now that we're being lied to. And the doctors who said hydroxychloroquine was actually effective and that they were canceled and fired a year ago, now it's coming out that, oh yeah, you know, it actually did help. It was actually like a 200% increase in survival rate with people who did that. People see these things and they need to know that they are not alone.
Yes, that's right.
And that it is still possible. And it's going to take people that are strong enough in their convictions. You know, the Bible is riddled with stories of people that knew that if they stand up for their Christian faith, they face the ultimate punishment, death, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
I mean, you know, we deal as people, we view our 60 to 80 years, if we're lucky on this earth, as a really long time, you know? And I oftentimes have to remind myself, you know, because one of the biggest things, I'm actually talking to a buddy of mine now who's struggling, you know, with Christianity. You know, why do 6-year-old kids get cancer and suffer for 3 years and then die when they're 9? Like your mom passed away from cancer. You understand that
Sure.
struggle. Why do good things happen or bad things happen to good people or innocent people? Worse, right? Children. Why does that happen? You know, why is this? And my answer is always the same. I say, you know, one of my favorite parts is old Job, man. Nobody had it worse than him, right? I mean, you know, and all this stuff. And there's literally this part in the Bible, and I'm completely paraphrasing. This is Graham Allen's version. I like to imagine God. This is my Talladega Nights. I like to imagine my Jesus as like a sarcastic Jesus. Like that's just how I like to imagine him. There's literally this part where Job is like calling out and he's like, okay, all right, what's the deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, why are you doing this to me? Why are you allowing this to happen to me? And then there's the part where, you know, it comes on, you know, and basically God pretty much says, hey, do you know how many grains of sand there are in the bit? Do you know how many stars there are? Do you have any idea any of this stuff? Basically, you're not capable of understanding those things. All right. Our 60 to 80 years here, if we're lucky, is such a finite blip in the radar compared to eternity. And so those things happen. because you never know what God's plan is. Tragedies happen where those people are now in heaven. You think that they care one bit what happened to them while they were here on this mortal world? No, they don't care at all. They're up there with God and Jesus, living in heaven for eternity. They couldn't be any happier. But that story leads to the next person going out and doing something, taking that tragedy to turn it into something for the Lord, right? I truly believe, John, you've read my book. I truly believe that everything that happened to me, our childhoods are kind of similar in a lot of ways in that regard. I believe those things happened to me to prepare me for what I do now. If I had had the perfect childhood and the perfect home and all this stuff, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I don't know what I would be doing, but I probably wouldn't be here. Okay.
Sure.
If you hadn't gone through the struggles you went through as a young child, you probably wouldn't have been able to articulate the way that you do and turn it into music that have helped so many people. And me and you have talked about this. You helped me get through so many struggles. Your music helped me get through the struggles that I was facing when I was a teenager. And those are the things that people, you just can't understand it. And I believe that we need people that need to understand that, yeah, you may lose your job. You may. Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's society, you may lose a spouse over it. I mean, truly, like there, and I write about this in my new book, actually, that's coming out here soon, that there are people today, 30 years ago, you dated who you were in a 30-mile radius to. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't the
That's right.
there wasn't the internet. There wasn't this. And so, what do they call it? Crap, the word escapes me, but basically like your circles of socioeconomics, right?
Yeah.
Like your circles of where you were, that's who you dated. So 9 times out of 10, the person you were dating grew up the same way. They knew the same people. You believed relatively the same thing. Now you've got people from Louisiana that are dating somebody from Manhattan because they found each other on the internet and they think that they're hot, and now they're in a relationship and they're getting married and they couldn't be further apart. We have to be willing to stand up for what we as Christians know to be right. And we know that what is happening right now, I'll send you the article link here soon, but there is the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus put up a production on their YouTube page, and it's basically the lyrics goes, "We'll convert your children and make an ally of you yet." And the whole song is based around that there are adults that are anti the LGBTQ lifestyle. They're talking to Christians, is who they're talking to. And so they literally say in the song, that's fine. We'll just go after your kids and we'll convert your kids, and then your kids will work on you, and then we'll make an ally out of you because your kids are gonna do it. They've taken it down immediately from their YouTube. But of course, because of what I do, I kept it and I found it. And that is 100% sexualization of children. That is 100% indoctrination of our children. And that is 100% an attack against the church. That's what it is. It is attacks against biblical teachings, biblical principles, and it is to shame people and to push people into a situation to where they feel like they have to submit, right? That's what this is all about. One side is going to submit. And we as Christians have to be prepared to put our money where our mouth is. We all claim to be Christians. We all claim to believe in the Bible until it could hurt us.
Right.
And then how much do we really believe at that point? How much do we really believe? And I do. I believe that it's going to take more people like yourself, more people like Aaron Lewis, more people like Rob McCoy out in California, who faced millions of dollars in fines and was potentially fixing to go to jail himself because he refused to close his doors in California. I mean, it's going to take those men and women to stand up and be prepared to face whatever they have to face in lieu of it. Because, and I know this is your show, I feel like I've talked the whole time, I apologize. I believe we get judged twice when we go to heaven. First one, Peter's going to meet us at the gate. He's going to look in the book. Is your name in there? Did you know the Lord? Do you love the Lord with all your heart? Bam. But then they're going to look at you and say, what'd you do with the life he gave you? There's a song, I can't remember the old band's name, but it's like the name of the song is Where's All the Lumber? And it's talking about the lumber that you save in heaven to build your mansion and all this other kind of stuff with the works that you did for the Lord and things like that. And I believe that God puts us in situations. He puts us in positions, not everybody. So some people's job is to minister to the people they work with at the shift that they work. Some people, like yourself, have the ability to go out and rock people's faces off for God every day, and then some people like me, we talk. I believe he puts us in situations, okay, I've given you this. What are you going to do with it? I can't promise that there's not going to be repercussions that are going to be uncomfortable, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because this life is so short, man. And I could get out in the car and get hit tomorrow and be gone just like that. What did you do? What did you do? And that's something that has really just been motivating me lately, is just I got a note here, and for those of you who are not watching, I don't even know if you can see this, but it's the very first thing in my notes, and it just basically says you don't have to be important to do important things. And I tell myself that every single day. You don't have to be important to do important things, because God uses oftentimes the worst of us or the most undeserving of us to have the biggest impact. And I believe that we need those people to stand up, man. I really do. And so again, when I tell you I'm so proud of you for what you do and how you approach it, because people are looking at you, man. I mean, they really are. They're looking at you, and they are standing behind you. And I'm sure that you've gotten for every hate message you've gotten, you've probably gotten 5 supports to
absolutely.
it. And it's because people are watching, man. And I just applaud you for it. Because a couple years ago when we first talked, I think we talked about that very thing, man. If you would just start saying things like that, I'm telling you, people will do it. And to see you stepping out in faith like that, it's been really like inspiring for me as well. So
yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always been an encouragement. You're kind of a fire starter. You don't mind taking the hits, and I always, it makes me laugh. And someone's like, "Well, Graham's about to get into it now," but you're always somebody I can call and ask questions. So I appreciate you sharing so much of your thoughts. It's fun to get to chat and some important stuff. I have one question for you before we end, and you can give all the stuff that you want to where people can donate, where people can find you, whatnot.
Yeah.
One question. I think I know the answer, but we didn't prepare this. I'll tell you what I am sick of. I am so angry. I am so angry of squishy conservatives who talk a big game when it comes to the abortion issue, but they don't play a big game. And it's even come to my attention more and more, and maybe I was naive about it, that there really are conservatives who don't really care if abortion ends or not. And that's only been a recent thing that I've, it's like the death of naivety. And it makes me so angry that not you, but we support these people, and we believe in these people. And then they get a chance to stand up, and they find themselves trying to find some middle ground. And knowing you like I do, I know you feel passionate about this issue. So can you guarantee people on Cooper stuff that you're not one of those sissies. All right.
I believe that life starts at conception. I really do. The Bible is very clear. He knew us before he formed us in our mother's womb. It's very, very clear. And the number one thing that people like to do is, well, you look your daughter in the eye, because I have a daughter. You do as well. You look your daughter in the eye when she's just been raped and now she's pregnant. That that she needs to keep that baby of such a traumatic experience. And I always respond the same way. I'm like, you know what? That would be one of the most, if not the most horrific and difficult things to ever have to imagine to go through. But I would still, as tears would be flowing down my face in pain for my daughter, I would still say the exact same thing. That baby is innocent and God has a plan for that child. And there's a reason that we, outside of our own understanding, that this has happened. And you ask every single person who has gone through and had a child through those situations, the child is likely to have issues, or the child is a rape child, or a child conceived through rape or incest, etc. You ask every single mother who went through, and not 0% have said, I really wish I hadn't done it. And I really wish that they weren't here. Every single one of them says it's the greatest thing that has ever happened to me, my life, everything. Now go ask people who have had abortions and ask them what they think, and ask the PTSD that occurs and the psychological trauma to these women that they live with for the rest of their lives, because they know that they murdered an innocent, the most innocent of us. And so people that are anti-death row, people that are all up in arms that America used to own slaves, but they're completely okay with killing truly innocent. There's only babies are the only true innocence that we could ever truly have. And even the Bible talks about this, about cognitive understanding, right? Like there is a point, like a 6-month-old child doesn't understand how to accept Jesus and whatnot. I mean, truly the most precious among us. I believe that we will look back 100 years from now, if we as Christians do our jobs, and we will look back at us even having conversations on whether or not abortion is wrong or not. They will look back at us like savages. That we even had these conversations in the first place. The same way we look back at our ancestors now and go, how could you have owned people? Like, how could you have done that? We will look back, well, we won't, we'll be dead, but our children's children will look back at us and go, how in the world did you guys how is this even up for a debate?
Yes, I agree.
A life is a life. And so, no, people get mad at me because I'm very cold about it a lot, because people want to use that 1%. 1% of abortion cases are due to rape or incest, period. Those are the stats. Those are the statistics. Those are the numbers. So 99% of it is through selfish reasons. That's what it is. Well, I'm a senior in high school. I can't. Selfish reason. Well, I don't have the money, or I have a drug addiction. Selfish reasons. I'm just not ready I'm not prepared to be a parent yet. Selfish reasons. There are so many people that would take that baby. And a lot of people are like, and I'm sorry, you got me on my tangent now. You asked me the question, so I'm on the tangent. A lot of people are like, do you know the horrors that happen in orphanages? Do you have any idea the horrors that these children face in orphanages? Yes, I do. But you know what else? They still have a shot, and they still have a chance to fulfill God's purpose for them. And it's a whole lot better than you murdering them literally in the womb. Yes. And so I'm very cold. I'm so firm anti-abortion. We need to abolish Roe v. Wade. It's been proven that it was not what it was meant to be in the first place. Roe v. Wade needs to be abolished. Abortion needs to be outlawed in our country 100%. across the board, just period. And then I actually did a tweet the other day, and I said, we live in a society where people are allowed to tell Britney Spears that she's not allowed to have a child, but women are allowed to murder children, and it's no big deal. And so
I bet people love
no.
that.
Well, yeah, yeah. It was
some do.
It was met with warm reception, as you can imagine.
Well, I think you answered that really clearly. That's what I like about you, Graham. I like that you are convicted. You're a man of conviction, and I love that. I love people of conviction, actually, even when I disagree with them. I like that they actually mean what they say and
stand for something.
That's what I like about you.
Just stand.
So that
for
seems
something.
That seems pretty clear to me. So tell people where they can find you, where you want to direct people before we shut down, bud.
Yeah, well, normally I would have said, go check out my channels and whatnot, but the truth is, we are running for Congress because we believe that the government has forgotten its place, and the government's place is to be the employee of the people. Period. The people have the power and the authority in this country, not the government. The government's job is to step in if the people's power and authority is ever challenged. That's the purpose of the government, is to protect the rights and the freedoms of the American people, not the other way around. That is why we are running, because we truly believe that if we don't turn this wheel back, we will be Canada 2.0 in 20 years. I really do. I believe it.
I think you're right. I agree with that. And that's frightening.
And so you can go to Graham Allen SC, like South Carolina, GrahamAllenSC.com. And you can please donate to our cause if you believe what we believe, and you've been inspired by what you've heard here. If you think that we are the type of person that you want, not just representing, even if we're not in your district, but someone fighting in DC for what affects every state, then I ask you to check us out at GrahamAllenSC.com, and please support us today.
Also, your podcast is called Dear America.
Dear America. Yep. You can check that out. It's on everywhere you listen to podcasts. Dear America is there, and obviously, if you think I get carried away on here, I've toned it down a lot for John's show.
You have. And you really have toned it down a lot. Yeah. you smooth up the edges.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I enjoy listening to Dear America, and we've become friends over the last couple of years. So if people are interested, that's a great place to find out more what Graham thinks. He is a fire starter, and it's fun to listen to, and challenging. It's very challenging. So bro, I appreciate you a ton, and I appreciate you coming on, talking about July 4th, why we should celebrate it, and cramming that into your run. I appreciate it. I wish you the best out there. I want to thank everybody for watching Cooper Stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace. Cooper Stuff!